structured to organize people, get things done, meet the needs of the people at that time for what was going on. So feudalism, feudal structure, those are kind of terms that we want to focus in on. So explain what that looked like. So students will be able to show how feudalism, let's highlight feudalism, met the needs of the people in Western Europe. So in Western Europe during this time, remember, it's after the fall of Rome. Rome fell for many different reasons. And then the aftermath, Rome used to protect people, used to govern people, had rules, laws. Now Rome has collapsed. What's going to replace that? What's going to replace the rules, laws, who's in charge, who's in power? So what was the atmosphere like after the fall of Rome? You have urban decay, things falling apart, bandits, thieves. So think about what that would look like. What would be some needs of the people who lived there? And we see that feudalism met those needs. 3, students will be able to explain how the rise of feudalism led to growth of cities in medieval Europe. So those are our 3 learning targets. So I'm going to read through the summary. Remember, highlight key information, things that you feel that are important as we make our way through this. The period after the collapse of the Roman Empire, from about 500 to about 1500, is called the Middle Ages. During this period, barbarian tribes created many small kingdoms in Europe, and other civilizations looked to expand their territory and influence as Rome's power was less for the taking. So when Rome fell, think about all that land that now is available. It almost was like a vacuum, like where people were just claiming area, claiming land to gain power. So those are this different. The Franks emerge as one of the most powerful groups. Under the ruler of Charlemagne, they created a huge Christian empire. As Christianity slowly spread north, invaders continued to threaten much of Europe during the 700s and 800s. So still threats out there, still people trying to invade different areas. This led to kings offering land to nobles who would be called lords. So the kings are trying to solve a problem. They had invaders. So what could kings do? Kings have land, kings have wealth to help have their back if they ever needed protection. So these people that they actually gave land to were called lords. So in exchange for loyalty and protection, they received land. So this is an agreement between the land-owning people, was called feudalism. So within feudalism, we have people receiving something, and then they had to give something back. So there was an agreement there between different groups of people. So we're going to look at those groups later on in more detail. There were many relationships and responsibilities that were set in place in feudal Europe. After about the year 1000, towns and trade began to grow as Europe was now finding its identity after the Roman Empire fell. So you can pause this, go back, highlight. So there should be highlight, critical reading, marking the text here, and in our learning targets. Once you're done with that, you can move on. I want you to review these key terms. Hierarchy, evidence, significance, consequence. And then we're going to move on to our walkthrough. Now remember, with our walkthrough, we need to access our online textbook. And so we'll go to Clever. We're going to go to page 34 for the online textbook. McGraw-Hill. I'm going to do 2 of these with you, and then you'll do the rest in class. And once you're done with this video, you can take the headphones off, return the headphones, and then you can continue working quietly at your desk to finish the walkthrough. So anything that's not finished will be homework. So we're going to open up McGraw-Hill. Click on the green book. And then you're going to click on Student Interactive Edition. You can fast forward through this as it's taking longer. That's the benefit of watching videos. So typically it leaves off where you left off last time for the book number, so it might be close enough where you can just use the arrows to go to page 34, or you can use the table of contents. As a reminder, remember Control F is a function we can use to search things, find areas quicker. In our walkthrough, we're just looking at the images, maps. Here we can just click Control C. Go here, click into the document, push Control F, and Control V to paste. So 2 groups of peasants. I found it, but I don't see a picture. So then there's 3 items. So you can click to the second one, third one. So then we're going to scroll up. I think maybe my computer is not contrast. Maybe here it's generating the image. Okay. So I think there should be some images popping up here on the right. I remember this happened last year. Maybe like things weren't loading. So I'm going to go to my textbook, physical textbook. Actually 72. Okay, so we should be seeing a picture that has people working in the field. So let's go back here. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't see this picture has a castle with the blue roof and it has peasants, I'm going to copy and paste that image. Actually, I'm going to send it to myself right now. I'll pull it up here on the computer so you guys can see it. So I'm not sure why it's not coming up, but again, I'll have it here for you in a second. Now, if you see it, just fast forward through this portion. And it should be opening it up. I'm going to refresh my screen. Serves grow crops for on top of growing crops for their own on top of growing their own crops. So that would be for the lords. Remember, the lords would give something in exchange for something else. And so these peasants, these serfs, were given a place to live as long as they were doing work, okay? And they were protected by that lord for that area that they lived in. So we can use a complete sentence. The serfs grew crops for their lords on top of growing their own food. So on a map, Europe's geography, so we can Control C. It's going to be on page 33, so we're going to go back one page. Back one page. Control F. Control. So here it is, a map. Now you can click here for an interactive version of the map as well. So Europe's geography and people. So here's all different people groups. Remember, there were different kingdoms that kind of came in and ruled different areas. And so in Rome, they used to control all this area here. Now different groups moved in. So take a look at the question it asks us. How do you think the borders of the kingdoms were set up? Click on an interactive map and listen to the audio. How do they come up with those borders? When we look at the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths and the Lombards and the Burgundians, okay, so they have borders where they ruled to and then something stopped. So how do they figure that out? So let's take a look. Click. Then there's going to be some audio that goes along with this map. So here's the audio here. Again, fast forward until you get the part where the audio is, or if your computer's working, you can just
Led these people to these locations. What might have been the reasons?
So natural landforms. So it makes sense if there's a river that's going through an area you kind of go, okay, that's going to be our border. That river, we're not going to cross it. Maybe it's pretty wide. It could be mountain ranges. So those types of things. So you can stop this video and then continue on through the interactive textbook, answering the rest of the walkthrough. Remember, anything you don't finish is homework.